Broadsword calling Danny boy.
YouTubers, we're back at the bottom of Mount Sharp again. If you're familiar with my recent videos, you would have noticed that I've done a whole two series of videos on Mount Sharp and various boats and aircraft and shipwrecks at the bottom of the mountain. Now this is another one in series 2. This will be number 3 in series 2. So bear with me, there's a lot of stuff in here. I'm going to concentrate on one main thing here, but I might touch on some of the previous finds as well. This is Sol 48. Here's the link. This is the Sol 48 link here. This will be in the description, as will the other links to the images I'm using here. There we go. It's taken at 1341. There we go. That's the JPL. There's the information there. Okay. There's also this website here, which is really cool. This is one I've showed you before. You can download the whole set of Sol 48 here in one go, as a stitch together here. It's not a huge file. It's only 3.2 meg. But what is good about this is that you get the whole set together and can view them as one whole set and see the whole area in a bit more clarity. The image hasn't been quite so badly over-compressed and resized like the ones on the NASA website. I mean, these look fine until you zoom in. This looks okay, but when you look at this closely, let's go to the full res. Is it going to zoom in? That's not going to zoom in for me. Right, okay. Let's do it this way. Yeah, when you get in close, I don't know if you can see that, but it's pretty grungy. It's very blocky and difficult to work with. So for the main part of this, I'll be using this stitched together version of Sol 48 from this website. So if you're going to be searching for stuff at the bottom of Mount Sharp like I have, I'd recommend this because they're not as high DPI. They're only 72 DPI, whereas the NASA ones straight from the NASA website are 200. But the ones on the NASA website have been resized poorly and they're very grungy. So right, let's crack on. Right, here's the main image I've been working with. Here's the one from the French website, the Mars rover site, and you can see this dark area at the back here. Now that's the dried out lake bed at the bottom of Mount Sharp, which I've covered in previous videos. There are loads and loads of on this website. If you check out all the Curiosity images, you can pick the year. This is 2012. You can jump to 2013 or whatever. What you want to do is go through all of these and have a look. Just flick through them. You can select the image sets at the bottom here, which is really good. It's really nicely laid out. You've got the whole lot there. And what you want are any images that have this dark line near the top, because these are basically of the bottom of Mount Sharp. That's the riverbed or lake bed. There's a whole bunch of them. I've downloaded about 20 so far of these stitched togethers with this in it. So what you can do is if you find something in one, you can then download another one taken maybe a week later or a few days later, another set, and then see if the same thing appears in the next set of images, which it often does. So you can often find the same anomaly in many different sets of images taken even over different years, because the rover hasn't actually moved very much. It's moving very slowly along this area here and sort of looking over at Mount Sharp, and it started at one end and we're very slowly moving along. So I would advise you check through them, and you will find that a lot of them have this dark bluey sort of colour, sort of riverbed here. So okay, let's crack on with it. We don't want to spend too long on this. Right, now all I've done here is I've selected the area where the boat is, or ship. You can see that dark line there, and in fact in all these images you can see the dark line. I've selected around it. Now when you zoom in, of course, it gets a bit pixelated. But if you look carefully here, there's some very interesting stuff going on. Now there's more than one boat here. I think there's a whole bunch of them. The one we're dealing with today is actually, where is he? There he is. I think that's him here. Now if you look carefully, you can see, now this is a bit tilted to the left. You might want to tilt it to the right slightly, this image. But look at these curves here. Look how nice that curve is, and look at this quite bright area here. Now all I've done is I've brightened this up so you can see it. Now it's pretty vague. I know that's not great, especially if you're on a mobile device. Bear with me, I've done some enhancements and you will see some really good detail here. But just straight off the bat, you can tell that there's a nice curve there. There's some very shiny stuff going on here, which doesn't look like normal rocks. And you can just about make out some stuff up here, like some sort of, just there, you can see the superstructure sticking up here, like a con tower or something. And it's all a bit vague, and it's quite pixelated, but there are ways around that, and I'll show you what to do. Now, what I've done there, I've just clipped this part out of there, so that's the same spot we just looked at. So this is the raw image. Now, you can actually see the boat before anything's done. You've really got to look for quite some time at this and really stare at it for a while. But if you look at this nice curve here and this strange structure here, there's definitely something going on. I'll zoom in for you. Now it's pretty vague, I know. So what you need to do really is to, before we do anything, is to really darken that up. I'll just darken it up for you now quickly just to show you. I mean, really going hard with it, and now you can start to see something coming through. You can see this shape here. Now, what's confusing about this is that I actually think there's a whole row of boats along here. Some of them are parked or just sat there, kind of back to back. I mean, this was obviously full of water at one point. So the problem is, you're trying to decipher structures that are either in front or behind. Now, this is obviously in front, this thing here. You can see this curve, but there's all sorts of stuff behind it. It's really hard to make out. So often what a good thing to do is either to turn it negative. Let's turn it to neg. Let's neg that up a minute for you. Color balance and negative image. Sometimes this helps, sometimes it doesn't. Let's go in. You really got to darken it up. Darken it right up. Now you may or may not be able to see that, but the curve is still there, a nice clean curve, and you can see what the bottom of the hull there showing. And you can just about make out some stuff up here, this light patch here, and there's something sticking up here. There seems to be another boat. If you look carefully up here, there seems to be another one in the background. This may be massive, I don't know. I can't make it out well enough at the moment. I might find another angle for this one, but I'm sure there are many more. You can see a sort of shadow, this dark sort of triangular thing sticking out. That looks like the front or back of a boat, probably the front. So there seems to be another one just behind this one. So it's difficult to not get confused by all the stuff in this image. So what I did, okay, to start with, was I darkened it up like I just showed you, and I just got the sharpen brush and then started to go round like this. You can see that nice curve there. That's I think this is the front of the boat here at this end. And if you go round it, now the sharpen brush, as long as you don't have the settings too high, on about 20 hardness there, if you go around it will brighten things that are already bright, and it would darken things that are already dark, so you can kind of work out whether any of this is joined up before you draw around the object. So you can sort of go around the edges of whatever it is. This may take a few attempts before you actually get anywhere. So you look at that lovely straight line there. That looks like the bottom of the hull where it's sitting in the sand. And there's some nice details in here. You can see already there's something there. There's like a porthole or something, and maybe a row of them. And there's some kind of superstructure on the back of this thing. Let's sharpen that up a bit. There's all sorts of stuff. So that would give you an idea of what you've got to draw around before you do it. Now I didn't do that to start with, so I made a bit of a mess of it. Now this is my first stage. Okay, let's get rid of that. Now I'll zoom right in for you. Now all I've done here is I've grayscaled it, and like I showed you before in other recent videos, I grayscaled it first. Once I figured out that there was a ship here, I grayscaled it and I've drawn around it. It's still selected there, and you can see where I've selected around it. I've just drawn around with the freehand selection tool, and there we go. And I've changed the color temperature of the boat itself. So what I've done there is just change the color temperature to warm it up a bit so that it stands out from the background. This is purely done so that you guys can see it really in more detail, because it is difficult if you're on a mobile device. Now when I did this initial clip, I didn't get the whole boat in because I didn't realise actually. I thought the boat sort of stopped here, but actually it's a lot longer. But I went with it anyway because if you're too far back, you don't get enough detail, and if you're too close, it can get too grungy. So this was about the right level of zoom for this. So we're missing the front of the boat and the back of the boat. So this is much longer. This would stick out quite a long way either end. So, but this is the business part of the boat. This is where all the detail is. There isn't much at the back and the front, apart from a pointy bit there and a sort of a flat part at the back. So I went with it anyway. Now I'll just show you what the sharpen tool does. Now this stuff is already here. Now what I've done here is I've upped the contrast and brightness and stuff. I've also blurred it a bit. I've used a little bit of Gaussian blur just to get rid of the pixelation, because it does get very grungy when you zoom into these things. But you can clearly see that there is something here. This is an intelligently made structure. This is not a rock. This is a ship, and I'm pretty certain that what it is. I couldn't tell you exactly how big it is. It's pretty big. I'd estimate it's over 100 foot long. So it could be something like 120 to 150 feet long. Don't know exactly. That's an estimation based on distance and experience. Okay, so now when you sharpen it up, you can definitely see there's some interesting structures in here. You can definitely see some quite bright stuff here, and the superstructure up here is much brighter. Now you can even see that in the raw image, this stuff. This is what drew my attention to it, this bit here, and this dark line, this nice curve. And when you start sharpening this up, I'll just do it a little bit just to show you what it does. If you could sharpen the whole thing and just use the sharpen the whole thing, but that I find can get a bit too mucky. You can do that as well, but I find the best thing to do is to look at where all the brighter parts are, like here at the front or back, over here and in the center. You can just go over these bits, and what it will do, it will just bring those out for you, and it will enhance the light parts and darken the dark parts. So it just sharpens it up. But this can take a long time. Now I did a lot of work on this. This is only like stage 2 really, but you can already see that I've hardly done anything to this. This has just been contrasted and brightness played with. But you can already see there's some detail here, there's something there, and there's something here, and there's something here, and there's something there. There's a dark patch here. Now this looks to me like it's been damaged. It could have been torpedo or something, or this just could be rust. It just could be a rusty hole where it could have been sat there. It's debatable whether even anything ever does rust on Mars if there's so little oxygen up there, because obviously things seem to last for probably tens of thousands of years without hardly any signs of degradation. So assuming there is hardly any oxygen up there and very, very little water up there, then these things could last for millions of years perhaps. And the reason why we can't see them is partly because the rover images are so poor and have been resized, but also they're covered in dust and everything's got that sort of misty haze to it. So I actually think it's a lot hotter up there than we're being told, because the mouse cam does actually see into near infrared. Now the problem with that is that if you have a metal object like this is, and you can clearly see this shiny part here, this is metallic, it's not rock, when you have an object like this on a hot summer's day on Mars, and it does get quite warm up there, about 70 degrees, this would get quite hot, this metal, and heat up. Now this would probably cause interference with the camera, so when the camera's taking one of its terrible quality photographs of the area, like it always does, the heat coming off of this thing would actually cause interference with the and a shimmer effect, almost like a mirage, and it would actually distort the air around the ship. So when you're taking a photograph of it with the Curiosity mass cam, it would be distorted. You'd have image distortion caused by heat haze. So this could explain why a lot of the things we're looking at on Mars are so distorted, because they're hot or very warm, and because the mass cam sees a near infrared, it's picking up this heat haze and further distorting the image that we're looking at. Okay, so that was the first stage I'd done. So I mean, there's something interesting in here, and there's something at the front here. Now I may have got this the wrong way around. This may be the other way around. This may be the back of the boat, but it seems to be pointing that way, on to the left there. So let's have a look at some of the other edits I've done. Now this is sort of stage 3. Now I realised after staring at this thing long enough that there is another structure here. I don't think you can see that. Okay, just here. See that lighter part? And there seems to be something sticking out of it. And if I zoom right in, you may not be able to see this, but you can see two sort of round dots there, and a sort of squarish structure here. And having worked on this all night last night and the night and all day practically, I've also realised that this superstructure doesn't go like this. I think it comes up here, and there's also another part here. I don't know if you can see that, but when you get in close, you can see a lighter part just here, and there seems to be some stuff sticking up from it, like an aerial, or there could be aerials or some kind of communication stuff sticking up from it as well. So it's really hard with this stuff because there's so much behind this boat or ship. There's so much going on behind it. It's really hard to make out what's joined to it and what's actually behind it. So bear with me on this. I will get round to showing you all this stuff. Now I'll pick a later edit. Now I spent ages on this, and what I did is I just kind of, let's pick that one. Now this is the one where I started to sharpen it up quite a lot here. Now I sharpened up along the bow here, and you can see a row of portholes. They don't seem to be very well evenly spaced. There may have been one here, but there seems to be a hole there. So this could have been torpedoed, like I said. If you check some of my other recent boats that I've found, some of them have holes in, quite large holes in, like they've been hit by missiles or bombs. So this may be the same. Now, if this is a Navy base, which it certainly looks like, then there could have been a war there, and they could have been struck in a missile strike. So there could have been submarines. I have found a submarine. I found other boats. I found aircraft. So it's all starting to make a picture here of what actually happened. Right, so what I did here, you can tell I've sharpened that up quite a lot, and then what happens there is you start to get these shapes coming out, and it starts to get really quite interesting. You can see another black hole there. Now this is where I first drew around it. Now I realised that there was like that square structure there. You can just see that, and also something sticking out of it. So I drew around that bit here, and decided to join it onto the image, which I may do with other parts here, because obviously when you're drawing around such vague stuff, it's a bit of trial and error really. You do the sort of rough version first, then often scrap it and then start again a few times before you get the shape right, because you've really got to stare at this stuff for a long time. You've really got to muck around with the image and stare at it for ages to really understand what you're looking at. It's really, really quite hard. Luckily for me, I've got X-ray specs, so there you go. Okay, so that looks to me like a gun. Now it may not be a gun, this may just be a box, but there seems to be something sticking out the top right of it here. And you see those two little round things just here. Okay, see them? and there seems to be a sort of hinge type thing going on here, and a sort of square structure. So okay, I drew around that. Let's get rid of that, we don't need that now. And then I enhanced it. Now I gave it the same treatment as I did the rest of the boat to kind of make it kind of match up a bit. Now this has been sharpened a lot. Now, is this the last one? Let's go with this one. No, that one will do. Okay, now you can tell I've done a lot of work on this. This has been hand sharpened. I've just run the sharpened brush over these areas, run it through. Let's do a bit of that now, just to show you what it's like. Now I'm very careful with this what looks like a gun on the back here. You can see where I've drawn it on here, and I drew around it very carefully. I stared at this for ages before I drew around it as well. And this is probably my third attempt. And then I sharpened this up. I changed the colour temperature, did exactly the same steps as I did with the rest. I drew around it and done the same. And then started to sharpen this up. If you go in too hard, it gets too sort of grungy if you push the sharpen tool too hard. But the way to do it is just to lightly do it, and then like this, and it just picks out the brighter parts. And you can start to see something interesting here. Look at these parts coming off here, and you can see those two round things there. They look like I don't know what they are. It could be a guy sat in there. Who knows? But I mean, the detail is quite staggering. I mean, this took a lot of work. Let's undo that because I don't want to ruin that. I did a lot more work on the front here. At least I think this is the front. Maybe the back, but yeah, it looks like the front. Now, once you get in and start to sharpen this stuff up, it all starts to come to life. I realised there's something sticking up here as well. I'll show you that in a minute. There was something there which I didn't draw around properly, and there's some interesting things in here, up here, and there's a sort of structure here, and there's like a curved part here, like a covered part. This may be another gun turret or some kind of gear on the front. There's also a rather strange hole here. Now this may be where the anchor comes down. That's what it looks like to me. It's right at the front of the boat. Anchor usually will drop straight out of there into the water, and there'll probably be one on either side, perhaps. There'll be two of them. So yeah, that looks like where the anchor would come out from. And you've got, I sharpened these up, and I just sort of tried to push some detail out of this really dark bit underneath. And now this is where it looks like it's been hit. You can see here that it looks like a hole. It's very dark, and even if you sharpen it, nothing comes out. Hardly anything comes out. So that is a hole. That has been hit. That's been hit by a missile or a torpedo or something. And these look like portholes. I know they look very sort of grungy, but that's partly because the colours go a bit funny when you're sharpening over a sort of quite a dark patch of the image. It tends to go sort of green and blue, and it starts to break up into the RGB colours, you know. So, but there is some interesting detail to be had here, even though it's very dark. When you start sharpening this whole area, there seems to be this looks like another porthole, or perhaps even a ladder going up here. Now, if you saw my last video, the minesweeper, I'll quickly show you it now. I've got it up here somewhere. There he is. Now, this is what looks like. I call it a minesweeper. It may not be. It's like a small escort ship. It's about 60 foot, maybe. It's between, say, 50 and 100 foot long. Don't know exactly, but I'd say around 65, 70 maybe. Now, this is the front end of it, very similar to what we're looking at now. I've used the same technique there. Let's go full screen, actually. Let's go HD, full HD. Let's go full screen. And you can see here where I sharpened this. It's very interesting. It's not gone HD. Let's play that a little sec. It might go HD then. There we go. Now, you can see where I've sharpened this one up. There's some very interesting uprights and stuff in here. And you can even see what looks like a ladder going up the middle. Okay, see that? Now, this one is looking fairly similar. You know, if you start getting into the detail and you start pushing it, there seems to be what looks like some sort of ladder or or steps going up here where you would probably get onto the boat. You'd have a smaller boat and go up to it, and then you'd probably climb onto it here. And there's some interesting stuff going on in the superstructure. There's a strange circular thing here. There's some interesting stuff going on at the back here. There look like to be some holes. Some of these could be portholes or windows. They seem to be fairly irregular. Some of them seem to be in a sort of straight line, but it's hard to tell. This could have been here for a million years, or even just 100 years. You know, who knows? But there's some really interesting stuff in here. Now you can see, if you look carefully, you can see a straight line going right across this. Now I actually thought this was where the image has been stitched together, and I started trying to get rid of it. You can see this line here, another one here. Now some of these may be from image stitch lines, but actually when you look at this one, it doesn't go in a straight line. It's straight almost all the way across, and it goes here, see, look, and then it goes up, and it goes down, then it sort of goes a bit jagged there, then it sort of breaks up here, and then it comes back here, and you've got a perfect straight line going right through the whole thing. Now that may be caused by image stitch, but actually the fact that some of it isn't straight, like here, says to me that that's actually part of the construction of the boat, the ship, and that is part of the superstructure. So what we're seeing there is either a roof or deck. That's actually a deck, and that's the reason why it's almost perfectly straight, is because it's actually on the thing. It's not an image artifact from the photograph. So that was interesting. Okay, so we've got the central section here. Now I was trying to play. I think this is a lot bigger. I haven't actually captured the whole thing here. I think it comes out to here. You can see a lighter section here. See that? There's a dark thing there, something like that could be a window or something. So I will, at the end of this video, I'll do some more work on this before I finish the video. Well, once I've done this part of the video, and I'll stick the extra edits in it on the end, like I usually do. So you'll have the fully updated version of this. So this is almost the finished one, but I haven't drawn any extra bits on apart from this bit at the front. Now when I went back and sharpened around the edge, I did that just to see if there was anything else sticking to it, and this came up. This could be a gun or a winch or a crane or something, hard to say, but it's interesting. And could be some kind of weird gun. There may be a part of it more sticking out here, which I haven't got yet. I'll have another look at that as well before I finish the video. I'll stick it in the end of the video. But yeah, what I found really cool was this part, the gun here. If this is a gun, this is crazy. I mean, this looks like something you would see on an alien film, you know, like when you see the aliens sitting in the spaceship, and there's sort of a guy holding a sort of big console coming down, and he's got his arm sticking out and a sort of leg sticking out here. I mean, this probably isn't an alien on it. This could be just a mechanical object, but I'm just using my imagination here. I mean, you've got to think out of the box with this stuff. This is alien technology. This is not Earth technology. There are similarities, of course, but in some ways, this boat looks really modern. I mean, this looks like a very modern structure at the front here. And this could be, who knows what type of gun this is. This could be a laser gun, or it could be some kind of beam weapon or a sonic weapon. It could be just a cannon, or I don't know. Absolutely no idea. But it looks kind of weird. It looks really kind of space age stuff going on here. But when you look at the rest of the boat, if you look at this end, this looks like this looks really quite old-fashioned. This looks like one of the old dreadnoughts that, you know, which were around over 100 years ago, World War I style. You know, this is really old. So you've got a real mixed bag here. Like I said before, you've got a lot of stuff on Mars that looks modern, and a lot of stuff looks quite old-fashioned. And if this is a destroyer or some kind of battleship, which it looks like, it's kind of weird, because most modern battleships now don't have these portholes along the bottom. They have windows up here, and they're usually much more stealthy design now. I've got a picture of one up here for you somewhere. There's the one from the previous video. Here we go. They're quite clean. This is a US, which one is this? This is it says up here, US the Sullivans, okay, USS the Sullivans, guided missile destroyer. Now this is a similar size, no more than about 150 feet or so in length. So we're looking about a similar sort of size. Don't know exactly, but roughly, it has similar proportions to it. You've got a nice curve like we got on there, and a lower back part and a superstructure. But I do think there is on the Martian one. I think there's a lot more going on above it. I mean, with a comm tower and all these communications aerials and stuff like that. And there's these little domes and structures. Now, if you look carefully on this, I haven't done it yet, but I will do. There seems to be some extra structures here. There's this part here, and there may well be, if you look up here, some crazy stuff going on up here. This may well be a communications tower up here, sticking up, and aerials and various bits of hardware sticking up there. So I really can't make it out. I mean, there's so much crazy stuff going on in this image that it's really difficult. I'm struggling with it. I will try and do some more work on that, but there seems to be more structure up here. This seems to come out to here, and you've got a strange curved thing there, and it's quite dark in there. So I'm guessing this is probably joined onto it. So this probably comes out to here, and there's another part here. Okay, so I won't go on too long. There is an edit where I sort of drew round it, I think, somewhere. Hang on, is that it? No. No, is this one it? No, that's not it. Okay, there he is. Yeah, I've already drawn round it, the part I think that's joined. This may be wrong. I don't know. I'll just brighten that up for you now, just to see what we can drag out of it. Hang on. Let's color balance it first. Here's the color balance, automatic color balance. Now that's on cold at the moment. We don't want it on cold. We want it on warm. We want it up here. Fluorescent bulb. That'll warm it up and make it brown. Okay, there we go. Now let's play with the contrast. Let's darken it a bit. Okay, and then we clarify it. Now to clarify, we'll push the brighter parts out. Okay, there's the clarify. Okay, that just ups the contrast. Okay, right. So this may be wrong also. I mean, I'm not sure about this at all. It's almost impossible to tell, but there definitely seems to be something here on the lower part here, and there seems to be a sort of window or some interesting structure in here, and there's a nice square bit here. So that certainly looks like it would be part of the same superstructure. So you often on destroyers you get more than one superstructure. You get one or two, and maybe a chimney. And see, this bit here seems brighter here. If you look here, you can see some brighter stuff going on. So this may come up here. So, but conversely, it may be part of the background. I really do think there's another ship behind this one, and we may be seeing two side by side, possibly even three. I mean, who knows? There could be a smaller one. But if you look at this area at the back, there seems to be something going on up here. Look, up here. You can see that line up there. That looks interesting. So it's really confusing. I've done my best so far to try and get as much detail out for you here. Let's get in really close here. Look at this. Look at these details. And this may not be. Don't cast. I'm only speculating here, but there looks to be some sort of figure in here. Just under this here. This could be a person. I mean, I very much doubt it, but you could interpret that as a human figure or humanoid figure with a hat on, even. You know, let's sharpen that up a bit just for a laugh. I mean, it probably isn't. I'm just kind of speculating here as usual. Let's make that a bit smaller. Let's go a bit smaller. Yeah. Okay. Oh, it won't let me because it's selected there. I'll find it in another. Hang on. Let's find him in here. There he is. You see that? Now that's probably just part of the superstructure. There's lots of gear in here. There's lots of bits and pieces, like you would expect to see on a boat. Lots of winches and various like little cranes and sort of bits of machinery and that sort of thing. So, but there's some interesting stuff in here. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, what is that? You know, it may just be something you tie the boat off to, or something like a winch or something, but that's pretty cool. I'm only speculating, but you know, it's pretty cool. Okay, but you can see, yeah, let's just have a quick look at this detail along here. I'll get in nice and close for you. I'll just go slowly along. That's what looks like where the, I don't know what that's called. There's a special name for that, where the anchor comes out, but that seems to be one of those. And there's look to be some windows along here. This looks like the damaged area that I was on about, where it could have been hit. It seems quite badly damaged there. There's also at the back, there seems to be some damage here, and there seems to be a few holes in it. I mean, who knows? This could have been in a real fight, this thing, or this just could be just have been left there for so long that parts of it have rotted away. You know, eventually everything rots away in the end, even on Mars. But look at this square structure here. Look at this. There's some really interesting stuff going on here. There's another interesting shape here. There's another sort of square. Like I said, there may be a ladder coming up here. Go into this part up here, where you would mount the boat and go in through here. But yeah, I'm pretty sure there is something up here. Look at that thing there. So I will do another edit of this, and I'll show you that in even more detail. Get in nice and close. I might have to chop this up a bit to fit it in the viewer on my video software, because it's very large. I couldn't fit it on the page. I mean, this is why I haven't done the very front and back of the boat, because it's just too big. This is enormous, this thing. This is hundreds, probably somewhere between 100 and 200 foot long, possibly bigger. I don't know. It's pretty big. It's about the size of a sort of destroyer, or a small cruiser maybe, or something like that. It's not massive, but it's pretty big. If there was a person on here, he would probably look about that big. That's about the right scale. Let's have a look at him. Let me soften that a little bit, actually. So yeah, where's the soften brush? Because I've gone in quite hard with the sharpen brush there. Let's soften him a little tad. No. Let's take this. Let's just use the edge of the brush. Right. Let's try that again. So you can sometimes use the edge of the brush rather than the centre, and you can get a more subtle effect. Well, that's interesting to me. I've only really just noticed that just now, and this was really cool. This bit up here, and we don't want that. We want the sharpened brush. So you can go on and on sharpening this stuff, but it will get to a point like it has now where you really shouldn't do any more, because you're just going to ruin it. Because it starts to break up into the RGB and starts pixelating again. You have to keep blurring it up and smoothing it down. But if you take your time and you're gentle with it and don't go in too hard, you can hand sharpen something like this and get some quite interesting results. See, there's some interesting stuff in here. Interesting, lots of it. Interesting structures, uprights, and there's a flat deck going right across there. There's an interesting structure there, and there's a gun. There could even be a sort of robot dude or something kind of sat in there. You know, I mean, who knows? I mean, this is alien stuff here. This is not on Earth. People keep saying that the Curiosity images are taken on Earth. Well, where on Earth? Show us. You know, let's see. You know, prove it. Let's see where. What desert? You know, Nevada desert. Yeah. Well, what part of the Nevada desert? Find me Mount Sharp on Earth. It's not on Earth. This stuff is alien. I found lots of alien creatures and skulls and bones and all sorts of stuff up there, and they're obviously not from Earth. So there you go. Okay, guys, I think that just about covers it. Let's have a look at the very final edit I've done. This may be updated. I've actually changed that to blue at the bottom there, just to make it look like it's on water, just because it looks better, and also I can put the title over that better. So there you go. The revised version will have a larger superstructure in here, I expect. You can just about make it out there, see? It goes up to here, and then down there, like that. and there seems to be a nice dark sort of window type thing just there. Okay, thanks for watching, everyone. I hope that wasn't too long, but there's a lot of detail in here. I will try and get as much of that in at the end as I can. I'll clip that up into parts for you and get right in there. Okay, I'll see you soon.